Back at the cliff with the mutated willow tree, a large-scale animal massacre was taking place. The system kept adding evolution points for killing creatures. Rabbits, bats, lizards. Oh, why was there a white tiger here? It's a cousin of our silly white tiger, maybe? Below the white tiger were moon bears, wild horses, wild wolves, all taken down, each one yielding a certain amount of points. The culprit behind the massacre was none other than UZU. He killed so much he was used to it. Blood splattered before him, yet his expression didn't change. Several days of non-stop hunting had piled up 2 heaps of animal corpses, earning over 18,000 evolution points. Can't help but praise the monsters for working so efficiently. So much stuff to ship that even the shipper was tired, panting heavily. Just as he was about to go pick up more goods, ZU stopped him, telling him to eat something to regain strength. Who could say no? The two of them dove in, tearing and ripping. The ice snake that hatched the other day had been quickly named Little White by ZU. It was still tiny, so he told it to eat too. Far away, a gorilla roared in the middle of the forest. It looked huge and fierce, with a big belly and bright eyes. I found it scary, but Xiaoqing felt it was extremely majestic. She flew in the air, loudly praising it. The gorilla heard, but took a while to spot the faint outline of Xiaoqing. Well, ghosts are different. The gorilla roared a challenge, grabbed a massive rock, and lifted it with force. It was a chunk of mountain, not just a rock. Quite an impressive display. Xiaoqing was very pleased. The gorilla hurled the boulder toward Xiaoqing. It had strength, but this stage belonged to her. The rock was sliced smoothly like tofu by something purple, cut into pieces. Cutting rocks to show off. Physical attacks like that couldn't touch Xiaoqing. She's a ghost after all. Xiaoqing brought out the centipede to scare it. Now she was officially making a move. Everywhere there was fighting except for ZU, who was leisurely cleaning up the pile of corpses before him. He cleaned thoroughly, not leaving a scrap of meat. Just as the yard was clean, Xiaoqing threw the gorilla straight down. He couldn't even get mad, since he was the one who ordered Xiaoqing to catch this gorilla. Xiaoqing didn't know why ZU wanted this gorilla. Compared to other wild beasts, primates couldn't hold a candle. Besides, gorillas are smart. Raising them could bring all sorts of unforeseen troubles. Sounds unreasonable, but mighty convincing. See, raising smart creatures is easier than dealing with stupid ones. But if they're too smart, they're hard to control, hard to brainwash, and even harder to trust their loyalty. She racked her brain thinking about it. But ZU was busy fussing over his freshly cleaned yard, not answering her at all, making her have to yell in his face to get his attention. Of course, ZU knew primates are real clever. They're close to humans, with intelligence and living in groups. If guided by humans, they could evolve at unimaginable speeds. If we let them absorb human knowledge, they'd be just like us. At that point, should we call them nearsighted gorillas who can read books or humans with hairy faces? In short, they'd turn into another species. But the gorilla revolution might not be entirely bad for ZU's side. After all, the world's already in chaos, and the evolution takes a mighty long time. ZU explained it all thoroughly, and Xiaoqing had no more to say. Truly, you shouldn't doubt the boss's vision. The gorilla finally woke up. As soon as it opened its eyes, it saw an unscary face on a tree trunk staring right at it. To protect itself, the gorilla immediately wanted to charge and fight. ZU noticed it was a bit bigger than the white tiger, so instead of giving it some life essence to increase favorability, he took advantage of when the gorilla was puffing out its belly to attack and jabbed it in the side with a vine. The gorilla hurt so much it teared up. The branch even had the neurotoxin paralysis that pierced into it. It opened its mouth, lying belly up, trembling on the ground. For beasts not yet at rank, the neurotoxin paralysis from the branch was a nightmare. Under the drug's effect, the gorilla saw ZU as downright terrifying. He squinted and smiled, giving the gorilla 2 choices: surrender or die. I surrendered. It shouted, that made ZU so shocked. It decided so soon and also could talk. Not a regular primate at all. All that scheming ZU had planned to entice it was for nothing. Smart creatures indeed. Anyway, that's how it went, and the gorilla joined the team. Hearing his boss ask, "What's your name?" the gorilla put on a clueless face, didn't even know what it meant. If it didn't have one, then fine, from now on you're King Kong. Though naming it that now might be a bit insulting to the King Kong on TV, but surely it'll grow bigger later. After checking its background, it was time to give a joining gift. The gorilla took the drug. Its eyes flashed bright, mouth spewing green light, a downright horrifying sight. Never seen a creature look so gross after taking essence like this one. A tuft of red hair sprouted on its head, muscles bulging all over, felt like a light squeeze could kill someone, but its fashion sense was a bit off. After absorbing, it jumped straight to level 8, possessing the innate talent Berserk to boost strength and speed. Special skills included a body and mind developed beyond others of the same rank, plus critical strikes and meticulous fighting style. Not bad, but not outstanding enough to make it into the Great Nine Beasts. The first task upon joining this multi-species company was to call all its kind to headquarters. King Kong got the order, took a deep breath, roared real loud, cracking the ground, bursting its boss's eardrums. What else could you do? It had to be that loud so the gorillas back home could hear. East and west, every area got the message, and they flocked over, swinging through the trees. Ziyu and Xiaoqing's eyes widened. They didn't expect so many gorillas. This time they hit the jackpot. Ziyu's multi-species company was running mighty efficiently. Everyone was doing their part. The boss was recruiting more hands, while the staff outside were still fighting up a storm, smashing everything. Bricks, stones, wood, bamboo, all busted up. Flash took hits to the head and shoulder. He retreated for now. His opponent was shining brightest tonight, spiritual energy shooting sky high. The ant's enemy today was truly a match. A level 7 blue mantis, one level higher than the ant. Flash carefully evaluated, although I'm only at entry level 6, I can still fight against a beast of level 8. But this entry level 7 mantis in front of me is suppressing me. The mantis's eyes lit up. It zigzagged towards Flash, aiming to slash his head, but was blocked. The power of that slash wasn't light. The blow collapsed the surrounding ground. Flash spoke polite words to another beast for the first time. "You're very strong. Come with me for a trip." With that, he delivered an attack, sending the invitation straight into its ribs. The mantis fell face first to the ground. "Not coming? Then you have to come." On the ground, it trembled, trying not to close its eyes. It didn't want to work for any company, had to resist but couldn't get up. "Don't worry." Flash was trying to polite one more time. "You're not gonna die. I coated the blade with some paralytic toxin from his master only." Long after the fight was over, Bull Demon finally rushed over. It had followed the sounds of the earlier battle, yelling loudly before even arriving. "My brother, are you okay?" "Very okay. Second brother, calm down." Bull Demon was a bit surprised to see Flash injured. The little ant explained that the mantis lying flattened over there was mighty strong, could even control the wind. After wrapping up his fight, dawn was breaking. That was enough hunting for today. As the sun rose, they grabbed their stuff and headed home. Before the sky fully brightened, they quickly retreated, leaving with as many as they came with. Behind Bull Demon, in the distance, there was a faint purple glow. That was Ancient Crocodile's eye watching them. Flash wondered why Fourth Brother just stood there watching instead of joining the fight. Bull Demon explained that the crocodile is their secret weapon that only shows up when needed. In critical moments, he'll be the first to rush in for support. So that's how it is. But where's that dumb tiger? He was supposed to carry the mantis back. Where'd he run off to? Second Brother was sure the dumb tiger had taken the mantis back to claim credit first. These could not be taught by Qianqin. Where did he learn from? Back home, Ziyu was training his roots. For a tree, training roots is like humans doing push-ups, exhausting. He was panting heavily, sweating all over, having trained the whole day, burning up 450,000 units of spiritual energy. He'd upgraded 23 branches so far, still 27 to go, but no worries. A few more hunts would do. From afar, the dumb tiger came bounding back, all excited, clearly wanting to hog all the glory. Always showing off like that, what's the point? Seeing him made Ziyu tired instantly. Why are you so excited? Is the first day of hunting already over? The tiger spat out the mantis. The poor thing looked like it had drowned in tiger spit. At first glance, kinda gross. Second glance, still gross, but also seemed strong. Earlier, when fighting with Flash, it was just at the peak of level 7. Not sure how soaking in tiger drool got it to level 8. The mantis had the innate ability to control fierce winds, boosting its speed. It could also surround itself with wind to amp up its attack power. Its special skill let it blend into the surroundings and remove its scent, perfect for sneaking around. And it had those 2 exclusive mantis blades, sharp as can be. "Very good," Ziyu said. "Bringing back such a useful assassin deserves a like." The dumb tiger rarely got praised, so he was grinning ear to ear. Even though the credit belonged to someone else, the praise should have gone to someone else. And who might that be? Well, the one who just sneezed. Ziyu dunked the new recruit into water. It lay there, slowly healing. Once recovered, eyes bright and ready to bolt. "Who said you could run? Get down there. A smack on the head. Run again. Get smacked again. There's plenty more where that came from." After the dumb tiger had been back for a bit, Bull Demon's group finally arrived. Bull Demon noticed that Ninetails had been gone a long time and hadn't returned yet. He was really worried and wanted to go look for her himself. True, Little Red had been gone half a month without showing up, though she's tough as nails and not easy for anyone to bully. But even if it's unlikely, gotta be cautious. She might handle one strong enemy, but if there are thousands like that, it'd be hard to fight back. Bull Demon insisted on going to find Little Red, but Ziyu wouldn't allow it. Not to mention that he might not find her, but Bull Demon was inherently weaker than Ninetails. If she were really in trouble, he wouldn't be able to save her. He set a condition. Only if Bull Demon broke through to rank would he let him go. Bull Demon agreed, calmly responded, "I understand. I want to go to the Spirit Stone Square to train." Having been by Ziyu's side for so long, Bull Demon had soaked up quite a bit of spiritual energy, currently at the peak of level 9. Now, going to train at the Spirit Stone Square, the Earth Element Spirit Stones suited him perfectly. He'd reach rank soon enough. Really looking forward to the upcoming breakthrough. 3 days passed. 3 nights of non-stop hunting brought back loads of evolution points. Thanks to that, Ziyu's set of branches was fully upgraded. No more green branches on the whole tree. During his training, he also discovered that the more spiritual energy he pumped into the branch, the more they branched out. Today, he decided to pour all his strength into the branches to see what's special. Made it real immediately, he raised the branches to the sky, channeling a massive amount of spiritual energy into them. The sky displayed an incredibly beautiful aurora, drawing all the pets to look up. Even the human found it amusing. How powerful it was, they didn't know yet, but the first thing that caught their eye was its breathtaking beauty. Green, red, purple, and yellow lights filled the sky. Qianqin gazed without blinking. What a sight! No need to go to icy places to see the aurora. Not only could she see the lights, but also the shimmering, glittering cluster of branches. So beautiful. Being the only girl who actually looked like a girl here, her soul was truly gentle. She even wondered what kind of terrifying power this was. Meanwhile, Lengfeng was pale with fear. In his view, if those things fell down, they'd be enough to flatten the entire area. What were those things? Well, the branches splitting into 5s and 7s from the willow tree, of course. The scene was so poetic when Flash stepped up and made a snarky comment. Getting to witness the boss showing off his power, you humans should bow down in gratitude. He didn't bother hiding his rude mouth and continued, if you weren't still useful to the boss, I'd have killed all you humans already. Lengfeng saw that tiny ant being so insolent and wanted to take him on one-on-one. Luckily, Qianqin stopped him. She had a woman's intuition and could sense how strong Flash was. She asked the ant why he hated humans so much. What a funny question, the ant thought. He turned his back to them, then turned his head to glare. Hate? It's resentment. I resent humans more than anyone. Saying a few words to humans made him sick, so he dashed off, leaving Qianqin scared out of her wits. She'd probably never seen eyes filled with such hatred. Holding up the branches for a while made him tired, so Ziyu retracted them. The branches went from 7 branches to 5, then back to 1. Ziyu was panting. The move consumed too much energy. Just holding them up for a few moments had used up 400,000 units of his spiritual energy. The reason was probably because his body had just reached rank 2, so using a move from a level 3 part was too strenuous. That move earlier is best saved for desperate situations. Underground, the guerrilla army was hauling building materials to construct the tunnel. Ziyu used his snake-like roots to go down and check things out. Progress was real good after bringing the whole guerrilla clan into the company. Under King Kong's leadership, the guerrillas worked diligently, no slacking off. He was worried Qing Zhao couldn't boss these guerrillas around, but looks like they've exceeded the KPI once again. Qing Zhao said, they're all primates after all. They can be controlled as long as they recognize that I'm stronger than them. It's like the alpha position is decided through fights, and the alpha controls the rest. Ziyu sounded pleased to know now Qing Zhao had become their leader. Well, train them in the direction of the army and turn them into a military unit, okay? While he was bossing the employees around, an earthquake happened in the tunnel. Wait, earthquakes are a sign of evolution. Last time with Xiao Qing, it was like that too. Guess Bull Demon is leveling up now. Because of the large amount of spirit stones, it was hard to detect. When Xiao Qing evolved, if it weren't for the light shooting up from the ground, we wouldn't have known. This time, Bull Demon was also covered in spiritual energy, starting a blasting campaign. First up was destroying the square containing earth element spirit stones. Ziyu poked his head into the cave and was shocked. Inside, Bull Demon was giving off a really promising pressure. His whole body was flowing with spiritual energy. He opened his mouth, signaling to shove something into his throat right away. Ziyu got the hint and produced 2 great earth power flowers. These are flowers that bloom by absorbing earth element spirit stones, packed with earth element spiritual energy in every petal, super useful for Bull Demon. No need to explain more, just toss them straight into his mouth. Bull Demon was a wild beast with good potential, so Ziyu paid close attention to this evolution. He wouldn't hesitate to give those flowers to Bull Demon. Bull Demon chomped on the flowers and roared, purple and gold spiritual energy shooting up high, piercing through the cave ceiling and cracking the ground above. Didn't stop there. He kept bursting through the ground upwards, rocks and stones flying everywhere, big boulders and all. Good thing Ziyu used his roots to shield in time, or else faces would have been smashed whack. As the dust settled, Rank 1 Bull Demon stepped out, towering and sturdy, with long, thick hair on his head and neck. Especially impressive were his new horns. Now, Bull Demon was on a whole new level, far surpassing the white tigers. Besides his massive form, he also had a layer of metal surrounding his body. Checking the system, they discovered that Bull Demon had awakened the ability to manipulate gravity. Controlling gravity ain't no joke, and he'd awakened one of the most formidable skills in the world. Honey Badger and Flash were the first to come congratulate him. Wow, second brother, you've gotten stronger again. Though Bull Demon had just evolved, he wasn't all that confident. So, to help him test his strength, Ziyu set up a battle. Bull Demon on one side, Flash on the other with Mantis. Wait, why he's here? Turns out it bet that if it won, it gained freedom from Ziyu, and if it lost, of course, it'd have to stay obediently. Because of that decision, the Mantis was sure to give its all. Flash charged in to attack, and Bull Demon was ready to meet him. The 2 armored creatures were just waiting for this and dashed forward together. They sped toward him at high speed, one blue, one yellow, like 2 electric flashes. Their speed so fast you couldn't see them with the naked eye. They darted left, right, zigzagging around Bull Demon. The spectators watched eagerly, but who knows if they could see anything. After zipping around wildly for a bit, the 2 of them simultaneously closed in on Bull Demon, within striking distance, thinking they were sure to win, just needed to land a hit. Both were about to trim Bull Demon's fur when he let out a roar and used his gravity manipulation skill, pressing the 2 down to the ground, each making a crater right next to his feet. Seems like high speed wasn't a problem for him. That honey badger over there better not get any ideas about jumping in just 'cause the fight looks fun. It did think about joining in but got too scared and decided not to. Bull Demon hadn't yet mastered the intensity of his attacks, so he was real worried about Flash. The little ant said he was fine. Aside from crushed internal organs and shattered bones, everything was okay. Ziyu had a new healing method that used the essence of life and made it spread like raindrop, which was called the Rain of Vitality. It's a different way of using life essence, but gentler and capable of awakening deeper vitality. He sprinkled the essence dust onto the 2 bugs. Though their bodies hadn't lost any pieces, their insides and bones had been severely damaged due to the gravity attack. Without the essence dust, they'd be laid up for at least 10 days. The Mantis was healthy again and tried to run off once more. This creature sure is stubborn. No matter how many times you knock it, it doesn't learn. As soon as it's healthy, it runs, just like the honey badger. Pushing all the kids aside, Bull Demon and Ziyu had a chat before parting ways. Bull Demon had reached rank 1 but still needed a lot more training. His new power needed to be 10 times stronger than now to be just right. Previously, Ziyu had promised to let Bull Demon go find 9 tails, so of course, he wouldn't go back on his word now. He just reminded him to be careful, and once he found her, to come back immediately and not dawdle. Bull Demon understood and set off that very night. The human camp at the foot of the mountain hadn't left since the strange fog incident. The soldiers heard the sound of Bull Demon's evolution and were both panicked and trying to reassure each other. They thought the sound was made by the crocodile, but the camp had moved 20 kilometers away, out of attack range. Now, the superhuman team had arrived. Once enough people were gathered and the cannons were ready, they planned to level the entire mountain. Really, folks who don't love nature are going to get hit by natural disasters. At the Supernatural Research Institute, Xiaoling had just finished training. The entire training ground was in ruins, like it'd been bombed. Advancing to rank, her strength exceeded all expectations. Her body had the fire element combined with a soul-possessing mental talent, allowing her to use fire in wondrous ways, transforming endlessly like Ziyu's fog. She could shape it into any creature, but Xiaoling chose a butterfly to make it more dazzling. While training, a pink-haired junior came to report that the mentors were waiting. Xiaoling immediately headed out. As the dust settled, the pink-haired junior finally saw the state of the training ground. It was beyond ruined. Of course, the ground wasn't made of regular concrete or cement. It was made of specialized superalloy for training, yet it was still destroyed. Xiaoling is a monster, not a human. In the large room, two groups stood facing each other, like gangs about to settle a score. Xiaoling approached the Grandmaster. She was the golden treasure of the lab, so even though she was late, the Grandmaster still raised his hand to welcome her. On the other side was city girl Lengling and a muscle city boy whose name was not yet known. Turns out Lengling got assigned to another team. That's why she hasn't been around. She still looks down on everyone just like before. The city boy took a quick glance at Xiaoling, clearly feeling her whole body was wrapped in blazing spiritual energy. At first glance, her power was terrifying, but looking closer, she was pretty. He liked her right away. The city boy stepped forward to greet Xiaoqing, saying his name was Li Hao, and he was sure Xiaoling had heard of him. "Who do you think you are? I don't know you at all." Xiaoling's cold response made the short instructor laugh till he cried. Acting like the whole world knows him, where could he hide his embarrassment? Her underlings quickly filled Xiaoling in about Li Hao. He was one of the strongest in the Federation, had broken through a month before Xiaoling. He is the son of wealthy businessman from the Li family. His father spent billions on spiritual herbs for him. He recently became the youngest major general in the Federation for his outstanding service in suppressing the coastal beast invasion. With both money and talent, he quickly became the youngest major general of the Federation. Li Hao, hit with a cold splash of water, lost half his confidence. Well, if she doesn't know him, so be it. Today, he mainly came to invite Xiaoling to join Military Zone 2, not to gain fans, but there's also a small test involved. "What test?" she asked. "Very simple," he said. "Just have to fight me." Hearing the word fight made everyone's hair stand on end. If you didn't look carefully, you'd think you were watching Dragon Ball. Everyone at the research institute was feisty. Someone cheered so hard their dentures fell out. Go punch him and show the institute's strength. Only the pink-haired junior reminded Xiaoling that Li Hao uses the lightning element. Gao Yuan was just there to make up numbers. So on the other side, street girl Lengling had to shout loudly to balance the audience. "Li Hao, teach that country bumpkin a lesson. No matter how long it's been, she'd still be the best if only she'd shut up." Li Hao got into stance, eyes blazing, his body enveloped in blue lightning mixed with spiritual energy. He gave Xiaoling a heads-up before charging in, while her calmly summoned a fire butterfly. Li Hao was shocked. In his eyes, Xiaoling was like a beautiful goddess turning wild flames into something gentle and soft. He's a bit mistaken. Among Ziyu's people, only Qianqin fits the word gentle. The rest are all monsters. Xiaoling rolled her eyes at him with a slight glare and reminded Li Hao to be careful. He felt insulted. What's there to be careful about with a butterfly? He had his thunder fist and 20,000 units of spiritual energy. Watch me punch that butterfly off the stage. But hey, dude, you think 20,000 spiritual energy is a lot? Even my pet dog has over 100,000 units, let alone me. Li Hao's fist touched Xiaoling's fire butterfly, and his whole body immediately caught fire. A light touch you'd remember for a lifetime. He quickly retreated. The fire butterfly's flames were incredibly scorching. The short instructor was visibly thrilled. "Hit the spot, Xiaoling. Finish him off." Knowing he's rich and still talking like that, the Grandmaster should be careful he doesn't smack you with a wad of cash. Lengling felt things weren't going well and started anxiously yelling for Li Hao to smash Xiaoling's face. "What are you doing? Don't show mercy at all." The fighters were two only, but the cheerleaders were many. Li Hao touched his scorched face. Couldn't believe a butterfly could be so terrifyingly powerful. Women are indeed scary. Xiaoling gave a cold smile. "I told you to be careful, but you wouldn't listen." This hurt Li Hao's pride. He went crazy, unleashed all his spiritual energy, warning Xiaoling, "Don't blame me if you die. That's a post-mortem issue. Can't die anyway, so what's there to worry about?" Who knows what Xiaoling displayed, but both the enemy and allies were sweating bullets. Turns out she had just summoned a gigantic swarm of butterflies. One was scary enough. A whole swarm attaching to someone could keep them burning for a whole year. Xiaoling raised her hand to control the butterflies and mimicked Li Hao's earlier words, "Don't blame me if you die." but he stubbornly didn't turn back and punched straight into the swarm. The collision created a massive explosion, the air pressure so intense that the short instructor couldn't lower his hand, dust flying everywhere. In the dust, Li Hao was on one knee, propping himself up with his hand. He struggled to breathe, conceded defeat, and then collapsed. The research institute erupted in cheers. Street Girl was shocked once again because of that country girl. Behind her stood two other staff members who had appeared out of nowhere. The one in front had a mini camera pinned to his shirt pocket, recording the entire match to send to a high-ranking commander. The commander watched the match and reviewed Xiaoling's information. Smirking, Li Hao lost miserably. The staff member with scars by his eyes remarked that Xiaoling's talent was terrifying. He himself feared Li Hao as a formidable opponent, but Xiaoling even took him down in one move. The high-ranking commander ordered all information on Xiaoling to be brought to him and to keep everything about her confidential from outsiders. The commander stared intently at the screen. Military Zone 2 had many people like Li Hao, and he wasn't satisfied with that. He wanted stronger superhumans, like Xiaoling, for example. Back at the Bayou Gorge, the eastern side of the big mountain was shrouded in thick fog. Ziyu's pets were diligently preparing to fight for him. Near and far, you could hear the roars of various beasts. Ziyu was immersing his spirit into his willow tree form, cultivating once again. His current spiritual energy had reached 450,000 units. His entire body had evolved, beginning to step into rank 3. So focused on that, he hadn't noticed a bright red evil aura growing stronger in the deep cave. It used the spirit stones to hide its energy, accumulating power day by day without any creature knowing, except for Qianqin, who possessed sharper intuition than anyone. Qianqin constantly sensed an evil presence. Intermittently, she followed its aura to a large cave entrance. Inside, a strange breath emanated, growing stronger by the moment. Could it be that Ziyu doesn't know anything about this? But I don't understand why she'd go check out the cave alone. Is she holding a script for a horror movie or what? From within the dark cave, a swarm of blood-red branches shot out and grabbed Qianqin. They only let her utter a few words before covering her mouth and pulling her straight inside. Ziyu had just finished meditating and was completely unaware until Qianqin was already captured. She used telepathy to continuously call for his help, her voice growing weaker by the moment. Realizing the urgency, Ziyu immediately directed his will into his root snakes to search everywhere. Qianqin wasn't in her room or out on the street. How could a living person disappear within his domain without him knowing? The fog had spread too wide. He couldn't monitor everything at once. But surely, Qianqin wouldn't have ventured deep into the mountain. There was no reason for that. He activated his fog sensors and instantly located her position. Why didn't he do that in the first place, instead of running around? Ziyu plunged his roots into the ground and found a red glowing area. Qianqin had to be there. But why would she go down there unprovoked? No need to hurry. Let's use some real-time visuals to enlighten our guy. A mass of blood-red roots wriggled like veins, sprouting from a crimson head, stabbing straight into Qianqin's body. That head was an 8th-level mutated plant with the innate ability to grow a forest of branches, special powers including turning into corrosive blood clots to attack opponents, thorny branches, and parasitic skills. Ziyu recognized it as the plant Xiaoqing had snatched from the rock tortoise before. Who knew forgetting about it would cause such trouble? By capturing Qianqin, it had clearly developed intelligence. Because the spirit stones blocked spiritual energy, he hadn't detected it. Today, it even bared its teeth to threaten Ziyu. It shot branches toward his roots. This thing was not only insolent, but downright evil, without a shred of kindness. Ziyu easily dodged the branches, but found this creature was strange. Is it normal to be hostile on the first meeting like this? Then, don't blame me. He coiled himself, gathered momentum, and slashed away the hair-like branches clinging to Qianqin, then tightly wrapped the plant up. You don't know who's the boss around here, do you? As soon as he pulled it out of the ground, he immediately gained a new ability. He could use spiritual energy to spawn many saplings that grow rapidly, creating a small forest. Ziyu tossed the mutated plant's corpse aside. The new power wasn't bad. Could he perhaps cultivate an entire forest? He'd killed many mutant beasts without gaining any skills, but today, by killing just this one monster, he gained a new ability. Could it be that only mutated plants grant special abilities? Not really. Back when he killed the tortoise, he also got a new power. Setting aside the new ability for now, was Qianqin really going to die just like that? Poor thing, and such a tragic death too. Qianqin lay motionless on the ground, her whole body pierced by branches, looking utterly miserable. Perhaps the mutated plant wanted to parasitize her to escape from the ground. Look how enthusiastically it planted its roots. Since we know each other, I will bury you here, Ziyu thought. Suddenly, the spiritual energy around her gathered into a stone that covered her completely. Then just a few minutes later, the stone cracked open, and Qianqin's hand thrust out. She was reborn with an incredibly alluring new skin. Even trees would blush looking at her. Qianqin had clearly merged with the mutated plant. Not only had her appearance changed, but surely her strength had too. Regaining consciousness, the first thing she did was cry out in pain. What's going on? My head hurts so much. God tree. Tears streamed down her face. She doubted whether she was still human. Even if she believed she was human, she feared no one else would. Ziyu told her she wasn't human, but a vegetative. Joking around while she's traumatized like that, just trying to lighten the mood, though honestly, he didn't know what she was anymore either. But one thing's for sure, Qianqin couldn't go wandering among humans with that new skin. Think about it. Would people consider her one of them when they saw her like that? Qianqin was lucky not to have died and even kept her brain intact. The mutated plant intended to take over her body, but somehow botched the process, and she ended up absorbing it instead. Join us. Ziyu recruited her into his multi-species company. From now on, this mountain pass would be her home. Humans might not accept her, but Ziyu did. That was already pretty good. Of course, Qianqin agreed. Back to the conquest of the new area. The boss chameleon finally showed up and stuck its level 1 tongue straight into White Tiger's shoulder, causing it pain and making it cough up blood. Seeing its opponent in agony, the chameleon flashed a sly, pleased grin. White Tiger was brought back by Flash to stand before Ziyu, unable to get up after that devastating defeat. Ancient Crocodile reported that he had gone out to challenge them, but for some reason, the chameleons didn't want to play along. Seeing that the dumb tiger still had the pride of the king of the jungle, wanting to handle the enemy alone, Ziyu extended a drop of healing essence to him. Meanwhile, Flash looked around and wondered, did I sense wrongly or there are more trees here? Yeah, his master answered, I was testing new ability. Now I have the power to make trees grow, but if I don't pump spiritual energy into them, they are just like any ordinary trees. As he spoke, he demonstrated, making a small tree sprout up, and even used spiritual energy to manipulate it, making it twist and turn on the ground, causing the dumb tiger's eyes to nearly pop out in shock. While they were both dazed, Flash sensed a strange presence. Before the dumb tiger could understand anything, Flash had already rushed forward to attack, blending into the mist behind the large tree branches where the silhouette of a ghostly woman could be seen. Turns out it was Qianqin. She still didn't know how to fight, clutching her head and screaming while the branches subconsciously protected her. Flash recognized Qianqin. Her strange new appearance shocked him. No one had told him what had happened to the young girl. Now, Qianqin could freely control the branches on her back, useful for both defense and attack, but the problem was she didn't know how to use them yet. The branches flung Flash away, showing that their power was no joke. Being able to fend off an attack from Flash meant they were pretty formidable. Ziyu told Flash that from now on, Qianqin would be joining the family, even ranking 6th, taking on a new name, Thorn. Her appearance in this new form made everyone in the family marvel and come out to see. Only the ant objected. It couldn't accept this. Humans could be here as slaves, but couldn't be ranked equally with mutant beasts. It wanted to kill Qianqin immediately to prove its point that humans are weak and unworthy as teammates. Ziyu stared at it intently, his voice low as he asked, "What I said earlier, did you not understand?" His tone made Flash a bit fearful. When Ziyu glared and shouted that it was disobeying orders, it became truly frightened, sweating profusely and hurriedly kneeling down. "I was wrong, Master. No need to apologize." Ziyu continued to use an intimidating aura to talk to Flash. He knew that Flash harbored great animosity toward humans, but everywhere there are different kinds of people, gradually living together. Over time, perhaps it could change its view of humans. Qianqin timidly glanced toward Flash. It obeyed Ziyu but wasn't necessarily convinced. Its hatred, pieced together from countless past traumas, couldn't simply be resolved with a few words of reconciliation. If it was so easily swayed, it wouldn't have become as strong as it is today. For now, the fact that Flash was willing to live together out of respect for Ziyu was already pretty good. He breathed a sigh of relief. Now there was internal friction, making it hard for everyone to unite. But he understood that was natural. So many men, So many minds was the challenge for a big boss like him. On a day with very nice weather, clear skies, but the mist in the valley was still thick, a group of 5 people, of various genders and appearances, were together searching for traces of the mutated crocodile. They had gone deep into the great mountain, but still hadn't found anything. The girl complained, "Who said the croc was here anyway? Walking like this is making my feet hurt." "Who cares who said it?" Someone replied, "As long as there's money, we do it all. No need to fight, just need to find out the location and movements of the croc." The old man with silver hair agreed, saying that working for money, they shouldn't be too curious about things. That's called being a busybody. The bald guy had heard that the Misty Mountain was on the red list, with mist monsters in the area, but he didn't quite believe it. So since they had come, they had to finish the job before returning. These 5 people were all mercenaries, working for wealthy clients in exchange for hefty rewards. Today's group had likely entered the forest on a government mission to find the crocodile. Daring to step into a red alert zone, their strength must be something to look forward to. The group of mercenaries wandered around the forest for hours until the old man spotted Qianqin picking fruit. A woman suddenly showing up in a forbidden forest. If she's not a ghost, then she's got to be a monster, right? But in this age of mutations, humans merging with other species is rare but totally possible. So, you know where rare and precious things usually end up, don't you? On the auction block, that's where. Qianqin had no idea there were people nearby. She casually picked fruit, happily wanting to gather a bit more to bring back home. But who knows if she'll even make it back, seeing as the bald guy was already standing right next to her, and she hadn't even thought to run. Seems like her woman's intuition has gone missing without her knowing. She just relied on her strong instincts to wander around aimlessly. The bald man grinned like a murderer from Conan comic, eyeing Qianqin as a rare, profitable creature. Being new to her mutated form, she was too bewildered to run, so the bald man grabbed her head and slammed it straight into a tree. Although she was no longer human, she was still a living being with full emotions and thoughts. She hadn't harmed anyone yet, but these people didn't care about right or wrong. Like poachers, they captured whatever they saw. He lifted her by the hair as if picking up a chicken. The old man behind him shouted, "Damn it, what are you doing? Don't get it twisted. They were all the same at heart." The old man was angry because the bald man had smashed her face into the tree. Any scratches would lower her value. Mutated humans were rare and shouldn't be damaged. The blonde guy chattered on about how she was a priceless treasure. Basically, they all saw her as nothing more than an animal. The men suggested having their way with her before selling her off, admiring her beauty as long as they didn't leave any marks. The only woman in the group rushed forward to stop them. She pushed the blonde guy aside, cursing the men for losing their minds at the sight of a girl. Perhaps because she was a woman herself, she couldn't stand such disgusting behavior. That is, until she looked at Qianqin's figure. Her chest, waist, and hips all made the woman feel envious. Maybe hers weren't as good, so she was angry. She pulled out a knife and pointed it at Qianqin's eye, threatening to gouge it out so she'd be flogged for life. Terrified, Qianqin begged her to stop. Overwhelmed by fear, she unleashed her powers, using branches to push the group away, and those she couldn't push, she pierced through. Losing control, she attacked while screaming loudly. The foul-mouthed woman sensed that Qianqin's spiritual energy fluctuated wildly, sometimes weak, sometimes strong, concluding quickly that Qianqin was newly mutated and couldn't fully control her powers. If they attacked together, they could suppress her. Being an experienced mercenary, she led the charge while Qianqin was still in shock. Her mindset was too fragile. Not knowing how to fight or flee, she just stood there as they rushed at her. Suddenly, a golden flash streaked by, slicing off the scarred bald man's head before he even realized his neck had parted ways with it. The foul-mouthed woman watched in horror as her comrade's blood sprayed like a fountain. The bald man's body collapsed, and his head wasn't far away, lying under the tiny claws of Flash. Qianqin couldn't believe her eyes. Just days ago, he'd been arguing and threatening her, and now he was here to save her. Well, he might dislike her, but as a colleague, he couldn't let her die. If he stood by and watched humans kill her before stepping in, he'd be less than an animal. Besides, he wasn't entirely there just to save her. Humans had invaded their territory, and his hatred for them made taking action natural. Standing on the severed head, Flash raised his bloodied front leg to his face. "Humans, dare to trespass on my domain. Using your language is the last mercy I'll grant you." The humans were shocked first by an ant that could speak, then by how incredibly strong it was, and finally by the fact that it was protecting the mutated girl. The old man quickly turned to flee. To hell with the mission. Whoever can run, run now. The foul-mouthed woman barely had time to say, "Wait," before the old man's head was no longer attached. "Damn it, this is terrifying," she muttered. Before she could recover, Flash darted right next to her. "This forest isn't a place for humans to have a picnic," he snarled angrily. "Do you have the guts of a tiger or the gall of a bear to dare step on my master's land? Set foot here, and you'll lose it. However many came, that's how many will stay." With that, he slashed across her abdomen. Next was the blonde guy. He fought back fiercely, firing bullets from each of his 5 fingers, screaming as he shot, but his bullets couldn't penetrate Flash's shell. The little ant pierced straight through his chest. The fight was over in less than 5 minutes. Qianqin was deeply moved, but her emotions were cut short by the blonde guy's loud coughing. Flash turned around. What was that bright thing behind him? A grenade. Using his last breath, the blonde guy made a suicide attack, detonating a bomb aimed at Flash. The explosion wasn't too strong nor too weak, but blew the little ant away. He bounced off the ground before coming to a stop. Lying on the ground, his hard shell had multiple long cracks, especially on his legs, leaving him severely injured and unable to stand. In battle, a moment's carelessness can be fatal. The foul-mouthed woman wasn't dead yet. Seizing the opportunity, she grabbed her knife and aimed to stab Flash. She was also gravely injured, coughing up blood, but still spat out, "That bomb hurt, didn't it? Specially made for freaks like you. Go to hell!" She brought the knife down straight into Flash's eye. Blood spurted profusely, so much that I wondered if ants could even bleed like that. It was the same scene again, a knife in the mercenary's hand. The words, "Go to hell," the blade aimed straight at Flash's eye, blood splattering everywhere. But this time, an additional sight. A branch pierced through the woman's head, killing her on the spot. The branch was unleashed by Kankin, and she consciously chose to end the woman's life. This was her first significant step since mutating. Saving Flash in the nick of time partly revealed her decision. The setting sun cast its glow over the pampas grass, a poetic scene, warm atmosphere, perfect for sleeping, but Qianqin chose this moment to cry. "Stop crying? You're so noisy." Truly clueless about comforting someone, no wonder she kept crying. It was her first time killing someone. Of course, her emotions were in turmoil. From the start, she only wanted to follow Langfeng into the forest to pick herbs to earn money for school. Who knew life would push her into becoming a mutant, and today she'd even killed someone. Flash was also discontent. Why is it that only when humans kill humans do they show remorse? Is killing a human the only time it's considered ending a life? Before, he was like any other ant. Becoming the mutant he is today was due to humans enthusiastically experimenting. If Qianqin had been captured earlier, she would have suffered even more than he did. She acted to save him, so she didn't need to feel guilty. Finally, "Thank you for saving me." There it was, the kindest words I've ever heard from that ant's mouth. It was also the first time she heard it, so she cried again. "Why are you crying again?" he asked. She brought up how he'd wanted to kill her before. He pretended not to remember, acting like he didn't know anything. She said no one had ever told her such things before. The ant asked if she missed her family, hitting a sore spot that made her bow her head. She was an orphan with no family to miss. The ant was silent for a while, then said to her, "Now you have one." Oh right, she had a home now, the one Ziyu built for her. It's ugly and strange, but it's still a home, with brothers and sisters, though not human. Today, Flash said quite a few kind words, managing to soothe her tears, and even made her feel less alone. After the conversation, he was less harsh toward her. He even blushed. Well, now he's joined the clueless club. There's no escape, Ant. Seeing the two suddenly become closer, there's no need for Ziyu to step in and untangle things. The knots in their hearts had been resolved on their own. At the human dwelling that Ziyu had built, now there was one less person. Langfeng felt like he'd been struck by lightning, immediately asking Qianqin if she'd thought it through, if she was serious. She wasn't one for jokes, and even added that he should quickly decide his own path, then left. Poor Langfeng wasn't like the other two. He still had family waiting for him, so it wasn't easy for him to choose to stay. After the raids, the mutated spiritual energy kept increasing. Cities where humans lived were attacked by wild beasts daily. The number of people disappearing only went up, not down. Thinking about writing a story in this world where hardly anyone is left alive to read it is quite sad. At that time, the worst off were residents of coastal cities. The total number of people drowned or had their heads chewed off by mutated creatures had reached 100,000, so horrifying that people called that period the Dark Age. At some headquarters somewhere, people from various places were discussing global affairs. It could be called a high-level meeting of the global government. The first to speak was a high-ranking leader of the Federation, mentioning that the matter was very urgent and that they needed results from the spiritual energy investigation as soon as possible. The director of the Spiritual Energy Bureau was a white-haired woman. As soon as she opened her mouth, she had no good news to share. First, the spiritual energy in the depths of the ocean was rapidly increasing. How it was increasing, she displayed on the screen. It fluctuated up and down, but overall was rising. That's an alarming signal. Spiritual energy is like a drug. Take just enough and it's enjoyable. Take too much and it's toxic. The sea creatures couldn't withstand the high concentrations of spiritual energy and would die. Not wanting to die, they fled the sea and gradually moved onto land. The coastal creatures couldn't compete with those from the deep sea, so they moved inland. According to the analysis, a wave of sea creatures invading the shore was inevitable. The Federation General asked how long this would go on so they could plan a response, but was met with cold water. This is just the beginning, she said. The fact that still shocked anyone. Not only was spiritual energy increasing in the sea, but there were also signs of it rising underground. It was projected that the second global spiritual energy wave would soon hit, accompanied by a new wave of mutations. So, simultaneously, coastal cities would have to fight off creatures emerging from the water, while inland cities would be attacked by beasts descending from the mountains. The worrying thing is that inland areas where humans live aren't like the open sea. They can't just casually launch nuclear weapons to suppress the beasts' massacre. Everyone who heard this was sweating bullets. But the bad news didn't stop there. The high-ranking leader of the Federation still had more to show them. The world was busy like that, but Ziyu wasn't idle either. He had used his roots to burrow tens of thousands of meters underground and was still going without rest. The reason for this was that he sensed a pressure from deep within the earth, a threat like the breath of the apocalypse, as if the world was facing a disaster. Taking Xiaoqing with him, Ziyu dug deep into the earth. Xiaoqing didn't know where they were going. Ziyu said they were following his instincts. We're almost there. It felt like riding on the back of Ghost Rider when he says, "Just trust me." But he wasn't lying. They really did arrive. Deep underground, there was a mystical orb of light emitting intense energy. Whether he knew what it was or not, Ziyu just plunged straight in, piercing through the purple light layer and entering the core of the orb. At the core, it was dazzlingly bright, extremely bright. It was continuously emitting small droplets of light that kept floating up in front of Xiaoqing. She looked into the source and finally recognized what it was. This was a spiritual energy tide, the kind of wave that had swept over Earth before. Now, it was surging up again with an extremely large intensity. Ziyu leaned close to Xiaoqing and said, "A new evolutionary cycle is about to begin. It might come soon. Right now, the small droplets of spiritual energy can no longer be contained and are already shooting up in hundreds and thousands." While he and Xiaoqing were exploring underground, over at the human headquarters, folks were watching a clip of a golden ant speaking human language, taking down a group of mercenaries, saying it was because they'd barged into its master's territory. Behind it was a mutated girl, part human, part plant, looking very much like a human, whom it was protecting. The whole clip was recorded by the mercenaries through a hidden camera in their eyes. They'd only shown part of it, but it was enough to realize that the mention of the master from the ant's mouth was a big issue. The high-ranking commander got all tense. Remember last time when the crocodile was suddenly rescued by 8 falcons that appeared out of nowhere? No way they just happened to fly by and help out. Someone must be pulling the strings behind the scenes. Dealing with a bunch of beasts that know how to act and talk is already exhausting, and now having a commander behind them makes things even more complicated. Ziyu used his branches to hold a square device about the size of a chopping board. It looked neat, but it was actually a gadget capable of jamming spiritual energy. He crushed the device. The appearance of a spiritual energy jammer was a kind of threat. It directly targeted his ability to use the mist to keep an eye on everything in the gorge. Information is always super important in a fight. That's why the support has to keep checking the map, to get a handle on what the enemy team is up to, so they can protect the main force and find an edge to win the battle. The more info you have, the easier it is to deal with things. The spiritual energy jammer created a deadly blind spot for ZU. He didn't expect humans to progress so quickly. Using the mist, it was hard to sense people now. It's just the pressure of the times. Ever since humans discovered spiritual energy ores, everything has jumped to a whole new level, letting humans quickly catch up with the mutant beasts. The spiritual energy jammers were brought back by Flash, totaling 5, matching the number of mercenaries he had just killed. The spiritual energy jammer was bad enough, but it wasn't the worst thing today. Ancient Crocodile, with a nose sharper than a dog's, picked up a bunch of strange scents. His sniffer was working better than ZU's mist at this point, so ZU hadn't realized intruders were entering his territory until Ancient Crocodile reported it, giving him quite a start. The feathered birds soaring in the blue sky had to make way for the featherless, wingless iron birds. Besides the iron birds, there were iron elephants and the thunderous sound of marching feet. Humans filled the sky with combat helicopters, covered the ground with tanks, soldiers, and dust. This could be nothing other than war, the kind humans kicked off to suppress the suspicious forces in the gorge. The soldiers all looked tense. Of course they were, knowing full well they weren't there to negotiate. Apart from the iron birds flying in the human sky, there were also flying giraffes. A door opened from the belly of one of these giraffes, and out came a whole squad of superhumans from the gene modification unit of the superhuman army. Among them was Street Girl Langling, grinning smugly, looking even more annoying than last time. Now she had additional features: ears, a tail, and a large scar across her face. The gene-modified team was the elite, and below them was another superhuman team, made up of entirely human members who hadn't undergone any mutations. They came straight from the Superhuman Academy. The White Crane stood in the shadows, staring out at the overwhelming human forces that had gathered, far more than anticipated, leaving it stunned. The 3 dimwits also saw it, sensing that this time things were serious. All of them were on high alert. Flash was the most outraged, filled with fury that humans had dared to come here in droves. Beside him, the second most upset was the dumb tiger, who let out a fierce roar as a primal warning. Outside the towering mountain, the scar-faced commander grinned, looking up at the majestic, mist-shrouded peak before the soldiers. "So, we really have to conquer this mountain, huh?" Inside, ZU stood frozen in shock. His face darkened. The speed of the human advance had exceeded his calculations, but what was stranger still was that he'd heard nothing from Xiao Qing. What on earth had happened on her end? With such an overwhelming force that even a spit from each soldier could create a flood, drowning the whole mountain, this couldn't just be about capturing a crocodile. Humans weren't that wasteful. They must have a larger goal, like leveling the entire mountain. The whole situation had stemmed from events 5 days prior. During a government meeting, a high-ranking leader from the Federation confirmed the presence of a master orchestrating everything from within the mist. The other officials were shocked, and a female leader with brown hair asked for clarification, finding it hard to believe that a human could actually tame beasts. Unbelievable. The Minister of Research backed it up, saying, "It's real. Didn't you watch the footage? You saw the ant speaking human language, right? No way it learned that on its own." The thick-bearded leader suggested that there might be an entire organization behind it, not just one individual. With this in mind, the notion of intelligent crocodiles and gene modification technology seemed entirely plausible. Among the 8 red alert zones in the interior, the gorge was the most dangerous, with the second wave of spiritual energy predicted to hit in no more than 10 days. This posed a dire threat to humanity. The second wave would bring about another round of evolution for the beasts. That gorge had to be neutralized before the wave arrived, or things would spiral beyond human control. The high-ranking leader contemplated in silence before summoning someone into the room, a very familiar face. It was the same bearded commander from their first encounter. He would present the entire plan to attack the gorge. The attack was set for 5 days later, just before the spiritual energy recovered. But what if the energy revived on the 4th day? What a risky plan, they muttered. Yet as it turned out, the energy hadn't recovered by the 5th day, so that was why the massive army now marched toward the gorge. Meanwhile, back at the laboratory, a major breakthrough had been achieved for humanity. A round pill emitting a brilliant flame was the culmination of the scientists' efforts. a mutation pill specifically made for Xiaoling to enhance her fire abilities. It had to be delivered to her immediately. The pill was meant for Xiaoling, but city girl Lengling had intercepted the scientist, yelling, "All you ever talk about is Xiaoling. Everything is for Xiaoling. What, are all the students here dead or something? So it's always Xiaoling." Fed up with her constant whining, the assistants let it go. They knew her ego was beyond reasoning. Back at the government meeting, high-ranking officials had just heard a rundown of the costs and manpower needed for the upcoming battle. The bearded commander had shared the details, and the officials erupted, banging on the table in outrage. Who can afford this kind of luxury spending? It's just a gorge, and you want the best of everything. Enough, said the bearded commander, shutting them down. If we lose, are any of you prepared to face the consequences? If we're going to fight, we need to fight to win. Losing means it's over for all of us. After the second wave, that gorge will see us as nothing but worthless trash. Unable to argue, the officials fell silent. The bearded commander insisted on keeping the mission a secret from anyone below the rank of major, which explained why Xiao Qing was in the dark. His final request was that a key figure participate in the operation. If they were dealing with someone powerful behind the beasts, they would need an equally powerful figure. The proposed candidate was the blonde general in sunglasses, General Li, known as humanity's strongest. Following the meeting, the Federation began constructing walls around the city, like something out of Attack on Titan, but perhaps less effective, built more for peace of mind and possibly a small chance of keeping weaker beasts at bay. Over at a city hospital in Zed City, Xiaoling was rushing down the corridor, moving so fast that her companions struggled to keep up. She flung open the ER doors and saw her beloved scientist lying on a hospital bed, barely clinging to life. His assistant was sobbing uncontrollably, and the doctor appeared to have exhausted all options. There was nothing they could do. Just yesterday, they had been talking happily, and now he lay on life support. Xiaoling was anything but pleased. Who dared harm her beloved scientist, leaving him in this grave condition? Whoever it was would not escape unscathed. The tragedy happened the same day the scientist created the mutation pill. Lengling had somehow found her way in and stolen it, consuming it herself. The fire-aligned spiritual energy from the pill caused her body to nearly combust and undergo a transformation, giving her ears, a tail, and sharp claws. The pill had been made from the core of a flame leopard, yet Lengling's body was unsuited for fire energy, resulting in a mutation. The scientist warned her, urging her to spit it out, but obsessed with power, she stubbornly swallowed it, even telling him to shut up, or she would claw his throat. That very scratch was what left him on the brink of death now. After attacking the scientist, Lengling collapsed. The military took her into custody and sent her to the Gene Modification Unit, which explained her descent from the Iron Giraffe earlier. Though she had injured an academy scientist, the military, needing her skills, had kept her on, and so the scientist lay silent on life support. The doctor was furious, of course. Practicing medicine was already tough enough when he couldn't save lives, but seeing an attacker escape punishment made it worse. But his anger was nothing compared to the deep rage boiling inside Xiaoling. Once again, it was that street girl, Lengling. She'd stolen credit during their recruitment exams, and Xiaoling had already knocked her out cold back then. Now she dared to attack her beloved scientist. This time she was as good as dead. Even in his weakened state, the scientist didn't forget to call out Xiaoling's name. She rushed to his side. "Doctor, I'm here." He struggled to open his eyes, holding out half of the pill he'd risked his life to save, clutching it tightly until he saw her. Xiaoling ignored the pill, grabbing his hand and urging him not to speak to save his strength. "So I can't even give my last words, huh?" he muttered. The scientist knew his own condition best. He was certain he wouldn't survive and insisted on getting his message across. He told Xiaoling that she was young and had a promising future. His death was his own choice, and he blamed no one, least of all himself. "The older generation makes way for the new," he said. He was the old, and she was the young shoot. He'd gladly sacrifice himself for her, and he hoped she wouldn't destroy his expectations by making rash mistakes out of revenge. Xiaoling had been determined to break that street girl's neck, but since the scientist didn't want her to kill, she wouldn't. After his final words, he closed his eyes, and the heart monitor let out a single, long beep, as if someone had pressed stop. The line flattened, unmoving. The doctor and assistant burst into hysterics, while Xiaoling said nothing, her mind churning in turmoil. Hatred blazed inside her, and she clenched the remaining half of the pill in her hand, seething. If Lengling had been there, she'd have hurled it at her face without a second thought. She left the ER silently, lost in her thoughts. Suddenly, an organization staff member stopped her, inviting her to the battleground. Xiao Ling was clueless about any operation, but the staff member informed her that a superhuman team had already gone ahead and that she'd be part of the second group. She only needed to follow him. He refused to tell her the exact location, saying the details would be shared later. He escorted her to a helicopter, which flew directly to the Bayou Gorge, the place Xiaoling considered her home. Without any prior notice, she was taken straight to the scene and instructed to line up. Standing there, she saw many other superhumans, each standing at attention, hands behind their backs, hair in every color of the rainbow. Their commander, none other than the bearded man, stood on a raised platform, introducing himself as the highest authority for this operation. Xiaoling looked up, recognizing him vaguely. Wasn't this the guy who used to come over for dinner? Now he was her commander. The bearded commander announced that the upcoming battle would be a historic one, humanity's first ever preemptive strike against the mutant beasts. Their primary target was the giant crocodile, followed by the eradication of all other powerful mutant beasts in the mountain. He stood before the troops, asserting that they'd never faced this kind of enemy directly before. Their foes were unknowns, their power likely beyond anything humans had ever encountered, making it a brutal conflict. Brutal because the beasts could easily destroy fighter jets. Their strength far surpassed that of humans. To compensate for the quality gap, humans had to rely on sheer numbers. This time, the number of soldiers had reached 30,000. Still, lower quality meant high casualty rates would be inevitable. But we have to win, no matter what it takes, because only by winning can we secure a future for our people on this land, the bearded commander shouted. The mission's codename was The Hunt. The atmosphere below was charged with fervor, while Xiaoqing was nearly panicked. It was all too sudden, too many people. She absolutely had to inform Ziyu. She was just about to detach her spirit when an officer pulled her away, saying General Li wanted to meet her alone. At the command tent, Xiao Lin faced General Li. He had summoned her without even offering her a seat. He began by telling her he knew all about her background, including that her hometown was nestled at the foot of Bayou Canyon. Not only that, he knew she once had a twin sister who, unfortunately, had been killed by a mountain beast, leaving her as the sole survivor. General Li assumed she must know the mountain terrain by heart and certainly wanted revenge. But she, of course, refused. But back then, the monster chased me till I fell and hit my head, so now I don't remember a thing. Then she asked, "So you summoned me just to ask about this?" He could have asked his staff to gather this information, but bringing her directly here was to gauge her thoughts on something else. Finally, Xiaoqing was free to go and report to Ziyu. She informed him that General Li wanted her as his disciple, and she had accepted. Ziyu thought it made sense. Xiaoling's talent was outstanding. Who wouldn't want to take her as a disciple? Besides, the deeper she could go within the human organization, the better for them. Only a fool would refuse. But putting aside that good news, there was a terrifying development. Tomorrow, the army would enter the mountain. Xiaoqing asked if he thought they could win. He didn't answer directly, just saying, "When soldiers come, we fight. Everyone wants to survive. Everyone wants to gain something for themselves." Ziyu's guiding principle had always been to avoid causing harm to humans, wishing only for a life of peace. But in this world, things rarely go as one wishes. The beasts gathered around, listening to him declare his life philosophy, each one serious and attentive. Ziyu had always tried to stay neutral, but his position made that impossible. He had no voice, no standing. How could he claim neutrality or even protect himself? To all the beasts here, our multi-species company is about to face an exceptionally brutal battle. That battle might even be called a war. Losing would mean we all die. Even if we win, it's unlikely the whole pack will survive. We have to accept losing some companions. But the price for the right to live, for victory, is a life free from human interference. So we must fight, facing death without fear, giving it our all against humanity. This battle tomorrow holds significance for the beasts, just as it does for the humans. It's the defining fight for the future of both our kinds. The beasts roared, proving their courage was no less than that of humans. Every creature joined the call, except for Qianqin, who looked out of place. Instead of roaring, she was startled into a wide-eyed gape by the noise. The chimps roared the loudest, their force being the most numerous. Next came the falcons, equally fierce and eager for battle. Without a blow struck yet, the beasts already had the victory for the loudest roar, boasting a diversity unmatched by the humans. The beast forces were prepared, as if saying, "Come on, humans!" Ziyu's pre-battle speech was attended by nearly all, save for Lengfeng, who stood afar, looking toward the willow tree. He was considering leaving, even thinking of taking the children he cared for, both the big ones and the little ones, with him. So he wasn't planning to fight with the beasts, but his bond with his adopted children was strong enough to trust he wouldn't betray Ziyu. As Ziyu had once told Qingzhao, when it was time to go, he'd let them go. The total force on each side was 285 beasts against nearly 50,000 humans. Quite balanced numbers. Both were Earth's creatures, yet neither felt any compassion for the other.